Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to think about some difficult subjects today in this brief message. We often hear it said by those who are hostile to our faith that God is indifferent to our sufferings, and so therefore is either uncaring or even malevolent, if indeed he exists at all, which of course they would dispute in the first place. It's also true that even misguided Christian theologians have in the past said that God cannot have these sorts of emotions, as that would somehow change him or make him vulnerable. When bad things happen, we do question God's role or otherwise in these situations. We have to come to the conclusion, if we're Christians and we believe in the God of the Bible, that God at the very least allows these things if he is, as the Bible claims, omnipotent. Indeed, the Bible is also not short of examples of God actually seeming to cause bad things to happen. So how can we square this with our belief in a God who loves all that he has made and desires that none are lost? This, of course, is not a question we can glibly answer, give a smart, insensitive response to, especially when someone is in the midst of suffering and loss and someone is in abject pain. Well, I guess the go-to passage that perhaps springs to mind with most of us is the one in John's Gospel, where Jesus weeps at the tomb of his friend Lazarus. Note, this is the same Jesus who is God the Son in human form, and who knows that he will be used to miraculously raise Lazarus from the dead. And Jesus knows what's going to happen. He knows Lazarus isn't going to stay dead. He knows there's going to be a miraculous raising of him, impossible raising of him. But yet, Jesus is still moved by human suffering, notably, of course, that of Lazarus' sisters, Mary and Martha. So we see a God who feels sadness and mourns human pain and loss. We see a little bit similar later on in Jesus' life, when he weeps over Jerusalem in the knowledge it will be judged and destroyed. This is Luke 19:41-44. As he came closer to Jerusalem and saw the city ahead, Jesus began to weep. How I wish today that you of all people would understand the way to peace. But now it is too late and peace is hidden from your eyes. Before long your enemies will build ramparts against your walls and encircle you and close in on you from every side. They will crush you into the ground and your children with you. Your enemies will not leave a single stone in place because you did not accept your opportunity for salvation. It's a sad scene, and of course it was fulfilled about 40 years later in AD 70, when Jerusalem was, of course, destroyed, the Jews expelled from the city. But again, we see God's heart, his sadness, his compassion, his pain. You might think, well, that's the New Testament. God's not so pleasant in the Old Testament. Well, listen to this. We read this in Isaiah 63, verses 8 and 9. He, that is God, said, "They are my very own people. Surely they will not betray me again." And he became their saviour. In all their suffering, he also suffered, and he personally rescued them. In his love and mercy, he redeemed them. He lifted them up and carried them through all the years. That's what it tells us about God's relationship with the people of Israel. And of course, there was judgment from God against his people Israel because they turned away from him. But he suffered as they suffered, and always provided a way out whereby they could turn back to him. And this, of course, would be done most wonderfully and completely at the cross. And of course, not just for the Jews, not just for Israel, but for all peoples. So let's, in all of our sadnesses, cling to the fact that God is always with us in every way. He walks with us. He knows our pain. He feels our sadness. And he'll take us through. Let's take that assurance with great confidence. May you have a blessed rest of the day.